To her coworkers, she said, "I'm basically single. He's comfortable, not commitment material." That night, I left without a word. The townhouse key in my pocket was for our next step. But hearing her, I did. She told her coworkers I was basically just some guy she wasn't serious about, and that night I vanished. So let me start the way it really felt. I'm Mason, 29, and the night my life cracked clean in half began with 6 stupid little words I was never supposed to hear. I'm basically single. He's just convenient. Yeah, that's what my girlfriend of 3 years, Sierra, said to her team while I stood barely 3 feet behind her, hidden by a potted fern and a miracle of bad timing. And the wildest part? My first reaction wasn't anger at all. It was something colder and heavier, like the bottom just dropped out inside me and left an empty echo behind. But let me rewind by about 10 seconds. 5 minutes earlier, I'd walked into the Overlook rooftop bar grinning like an idiot, with a small box tucked into my jacket pocket. Not a ring. I'm tragic, but not that tragic. It was a spare key to the townhouse I'd just gotten approved for, the place I pictured us living in, building something real together. I'd planned to surprise her with it that night. Instead, I got to listen while she held court with her team like she was trying out for a snarkier season of The Bachelorette. One of her coworkers asked, "So, you and Mason getting serious?" And Sierra, my Sierra, laughed. Not the warm laugh I'd memorized over the years, but this sharp little performance laugh people use when they want strangers to think they're cooler than they really are. Serious? God, no. I mean, he's nice. Comfortable. But serious? She waved her hand like the idea smelled rotten. Please. I'm basically single. He's just convenient. Convenient. Like I was the human version of a grocery store rotisserie chicken. I wish I could tell you I marched over, took her martini, and delivered some legendary one-liner she'd regret for the rest of her career. But nope, nothing cinematic. My whole body just went quiet. Steady. Almost mechanical. Project manager mode flipped on. I walked straight out of that bar without a sound. No scene, no confrontation, not even a look back. By the time Sierra realized I had even shown up, I was already on the highway, driving home with this eerie calm that felt a lot like a concussion. And by midnight, the apartment we shared didn't hold a single trace of me. Not a shirt, not a toothbrush, not even the framed photo from the cabin trip where I thought I'd fallen for her for real. All of it gone. I did leave one thing behind. A note on the kitchen counter. "Sierra, you're not basically single anymore. You just are. Mason." I wasn't there to see her face when she came home to that empty place and that single sheet of paper, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't picture it. And that's where the real story, the part where everything changed, actually begins. When I disappeared from that apartment, I expected fallout. Anger, confusion, maybe a dramatic voicemail with sniffles and dramatic pauses. What I didn't expect was peace. Not silence. Peace. I checked into a freeway hotel where the ice machine sounded like it coughed up metal and the carpet was the exact color of "Don't Ask." I sat on the edge of the bed staring at a blank beige wall, waiting for that emotional detonation everyone warns you about. But nothing blew. No panic. No regret. No, well, maybe I misheard her. Just clarity. 3 years with Sierra, and one overheard sentence rewrote the entire relationship in high definition. Looking back, the signs weren't subtle. They were basically neon. The way she'd introduce me as Mason, he's really stable, like I was a walking 401k plan. The way she always wanted to meet my friends, but never wanted me around hers. The way she'd sigh whenever I talked about the townhouse like ambition gave her heartburn. Convenient. The truth stung, but the accuracy was downright insulting. Around noon the next day, I finally turned my phone on. It almost died trying to catch up. 10 missed calls. 22 texts. A handful of voicemails. The first voicemail was classic Sierra, irritated, dismissive, not a drop of concern. "Mason, your stuff is gone. What is going on? Call me. Like now." The second wasn't any better. "This isn't funny. What does this note even mean? You just are? Seriously? We need to talk. Don't be dramatic." By the third voicemail, she'd slipped into what I call her PR voice. "Mason, if this is about what I said at the bar, I didn't mean it like that. It was a joke. I was just trying to make the team laugh. You're being really sensitive." Ah yes, the classic "your heart is broken because you misunderstood" defense. I didn't reply. I wasn't even tempted. For the first time in the entire relationship, I didn't owe her anything. Not reassurance, not comfort. Not one more explanation she hadn't earned. What I did owe myself was space. And I took it. 2 days went by. Then 3. Then a full week. By day 7 her tone had shifted from PR mode to full-on panic. Mason, please. I'm sorry. I was being stupid. I was showing off. You're the best thing that's happened to me, and I messed up. Please talk to me. I listened to each message with all the emotion of checking the weather. The storm she was living in was one she created. But here's the twist. By week 2, she wasn't just calling me. One of her coworkers, someone who'd been at that rooftop table, left me a voicemail. Mason, this is Tara. Look, I don't know everything, but Sierra isn't doing well. She's been crying at her desk. Her performance review tanked. People heard what she said about you, and it's bad. Maybe just talk to her. Translation. She wrecked her own reputation and wanted me to sweep up the mess. And honestly, a few months earlier, I probably would have done it. But not now. Not after hearing the truth from her own mouth. Not after realizing I'd spent years being the emotional Airbnb of her life. Cheap, comfortable, always available, and never appreciated. So I hit delete. I had my own life to rebuild. And I'd barely gotten started when the real breaking point hit on a Thursday morning 2 weeks after I walked out. I was chewing through a hotel breakfast that tasted like damp cardboard mixed with regret when my phone buzzed with a message that wasn't from Sierra. It was from her mom, the same woman who once introduced me at Thanksgiving as Sierra's little supportive project. Mason, please call me. It's important. I almost ignored it, right up until a second text popped through. She lost her apartment. I froze with my spoon halfway to my mouth, not because I felt some urge to run back or because I believed I was responsible, but because real consequences don't usually show up that fast. This felt immediate. I called. Her mom answered on the first ring, breathing hard like she'd been clutching her phone waiting for my name to appear. Mason. Thank God. She's moving back here. The landlord served notice. She can't afford the place on her own. That made my eyebrow go up because Sierra earned good money. Not amazing, but solid. I stayed quiet. Her mom sighed, dramatic and weighted with guilt. She hasn't been eating. She's barely sleeping. Whatever happened, sweetheart, she still loves you. Can't you talk to her? Work it out. There it was, the plea dressed up as concern, the gentle nudge that I should clean up a mess someone else made, the assumption that the solution was always me bending first. I breathed in slow and steady. Ma'am, I said calmly. Sierra didn't lose me. She lost the version of me she thought she could treat like furniture. Silence. A long one. Then a stunned little echo. Furniture? I kept going, steady and precise. I heard everything she said at that bar. Every word. She didn't know I was behind her. Her mom sucked in a sharp breath, the kind people make when truth clips them in the ribs. Oh, she whispered. Oh. Her tone shifted. Not kinder, not warmer, but honest in a way she hadn't been before. I'll let her explain that, she muttered, and hung up. I set my phone down, and something inside me settled permanently into place. Because it hit me then, Sierra wasn't just spiraling. Her entire story was coming apart. At work, people were talking. Friends were backing away. Her boss overheard a version of her rooftop performance. Her team was whispering about her basically single line. The image she guarded like oxygen was cracking down the middle. And that was the real turning point. Not her heartbreak, not her mother's panic, not the apartment she could no longer afford. It was the moment I understood, clearly and fully, that I didn't have to save her. Not this time. Not ever again. For the first time in our relationship, her choices were entirely hers. And my freedom? That belonged to me. I didn't hear from Sierra again for another week. But I did hear from someone else. Her boss's assistant, though technically she introduced herself like she'd swallowed a cactus. Hi, is this Mason? This is Jenna from Timber and Vale Creative. I'm calling because Sierra listed you as her emergency contact. Those words dropped like a stone in my stomach. Listed me? As her emergency contact? After calling herself basically single? What happened? I asked, bracing for something disastrous. Jenna hesitated. Nothing catastrophic. She's physically okay. But she had a bit of a breakdown during the team meeting. Breakdown. I pictured the room, her coworkers watching, her boss silently measuring her stability, the same audience she'd bragged to about her single status, now seeing her unravel. What does this have to do with me? I asked flatly. Well, Jenna said, voice wobbling. She locked herself in the design suite and won't talk to anyone except you. She says you'll come. No, I said quietly. I won't. A long silence. Then, should I tell her that? Yes. Tell her exactly that. I hung up before she could say anything else and sat there for a moment. Not angry, not satisfied, just grounded in a reality I'd never known before. Sierra didn't get to treat me like a convenience anymore. And the universe must have wanted the message to land, because an hour later I got another notification from a mutual friend, Robin. She'd sent me a screenshot from Sierra's private group chat. 5 coworkers. One line from Sierra that hit me like deja vu. I messed up. I didn't think Mason would actually leave. In her mind, leaving wasn't a real option for me. It wasn't even something she thought I was capable of. And I felt this short, sharp ache. Not heartbreak, but recognition. She never imagined I'd choose myself. But the ache faded quickly and something stronger took its place, relief. Because the truth was, I hadn't just left her. I'd left the version of myself who kept accepting crumbs and calling it love. That afternoon, I toured an apartment, clean lines, big windows, a skyline view, and a lease with only my name on it. I stepped inside, ran my hand over the kitchen counter, took in the open view, and for the first time in years felt excited about a future that didn't require anyone who saw me as replaceable. Convenient. Basically single. No, not anymore. By sunset, I signed the lease. By midnight, I was sleeping on a mattress on the floor with one pillow and no frame, and I hadn't felt that light since before I ever met Sierra. I didn't know it yet, but her return was coming, and when it arrived, it would land harder than anything so far. She found me, of course she did. Because people like Sierra don't lose things, they go hunting for whatever they assume will still be waiting. It happened on a Wednesday morning, 3 weeks after I left. I was sitting in my new apartment, bare walls, barely any furniture, but a peace so thick you could bottle it, when a soft knock echoed down the hallway. Not frantic, not aggressive, a careful knock, the kind a guilty person uses when they're hoping the door does the apologizing for them. I opened the door, and there she was. Sierra, but not the version burned into my memory. Her hair was pulled into a messy bun that looked like she'd forgotten to finish getting ready. Her oversized sweatshirt sagged on her frame, and her leggings had completely given up on elasticity. Her face, usually polished to perfection, looked raw, puffy, her lips chewed, no makeup at all. She looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. I didn't move, didn't step back, didn't save her from the silence she'd earned all by herself. She swallowed. Can I come in? I let that question sit there so long she shifted on her feet, suddenly unsure of something she used to treat like a guarantee. Why? I asked. Her eyes flickered, because justifying her presence wasn't something she'd ever had to do with me. I want to talk. No, I said evenly. Whatever you think you need to say, you don't need to say it here. Her breath hitched, and beneath all that sadness was the faint hint of indignation. The part of her that still expected me to fold, to bend, to step into the role she'd scripted for me. She tried again. Mason, please. I've lost everything. My apartment, my job is a mess. People at work think I'm some kind of monster. She lifted her hands helplessly. I need you. There it was. Not asterisk I miss you. Asterisk not asterisk I love you. Asterisk not even asterisk I'm sorry. Asterisk just asterisk I need you. Asterisk need. As in, I was a tool she'd misplaced and wanted back. Sierra, I said quietly, you don't miss me. You miss what I did for you. Her face cracked, not fully shattered, just split in jagged lines across the mask she always wore. She stepped forward, voice trembling. I said something stupid at a bar. One stupid sentence. And now I'm losing everything. I cut her off. No, you're losing the things you held together with lies. That's not the same. Her mouth opened and closed like she was trying to breathe air she didn't know how to inhale anymore. Then she whispered, I didn't mean it. I tilted my head. You meant it enough to say it. The silence between us thickened, heavy with the years I'd spent carrying things she never realized had weight. She glanced past me into the apartment. Nothing but bare walls, a mattress on the floor, and a man who'd started over without asking for her approval. I thought you'd come back, she said, her voice catching. I know, I replied. That was the problem. Her eyes filled, not with remorse or love, but with the fear of someone watching their safety net walk away. Mason, she breathed, reaching for me out of old habit. I stepped back. No, That one word hit her like something physical. She froze. The tears stopped. Her shoulders locked. Because no was a boundary she never expected from me. She let her hand fall. I don't know who I am without you, she whispered. Then it's time you find out, I said. Her breath stuttered. She nodded, but it wasn't acceptance. It was simple recognition. Recognition that the version of me she depended on wasn't standing in front of her anymore. She stepped away from the doorway like her legs weighed twice their normal size. And for the first time since that rooftop night, I looked at her and felt nothing. Not rage, not heartbreak, not even betrayal. Just the quiet, open space where she used to live inside me. Goodbye, Mason, she whispered. Take care of yourself, I answered. She walked down the hall and didn't look back. I closed the door, and the apartment somehow seemed brighter. For about a month, I didn't hear a single word from Sierra. No texts, no calls, no long, dramatic paragraphs, no midnight apologies typed out and deleted. Just silence. And it was incredible. My life rebooted inside that silence. Not with some big epiphany or montage moment. Just the steady removal of background static I didn't realize I'd been living with. I built new habits. Morning coffee without worrying someone was judging my mug. Evenings with books instead of emotional cleanup. Weekends hiking with coworkers who didn't know I'd once been a professional doormat. Slowly, the version of myself I'd buried under her idea of convenient started coming back. Then one morning, because the universe has a dark sense of humor, I saw her again. At my new favorite coffee shop. I was sitting near the window reviewing a project brief when I felt that familiar tug at the back of my mind. The kind you try to ignore, but your instincts refuse to. I looked up. Sierra stood by the door, clutching a chipped laptop bag, looking thinner in a way that didn't read aesthetic but worn out. Her clothes hung differently. Her eyes drifted through the room with the kind of anxious caution people use when they expect everyone to judge them. She saw me. She froze. Her shoulders lifted just slightly, like she braced for something. But I didn't flinch, didn't stand, didn't offer a smile to make it easier. I just nodded. Her lips parted, some blend of surprise, relief, guilt, but she walked over anyway. Mason, hi. Her voice was soft in a way that wasn't for show. Sierra, I replied, neutral as a weather forecast. She motioned to the seat across from me. Can I? I didn't say yes or no. I just gave a small nod, courtesy, not permission. She sat slowly, like even the chair might judge her. We didn't talk right away. And for the first time, the silence belonged to me. She twisted her fingers together, a nervous habit I'd never seen from her. I've been trying to figure out what to say, she murmured. Take your time. That threw her. Her brow creased slightly, because the old version of me would have been angry or overly accommodating. This version? Calm, balanced. It unsettled her. She swallowed. I know I can't ask for forgiveness. And I'm not trying to fix anything. I just want to explain something. I leaned back, waiting. Those words at the bar, she whispered, staring at her hands. I said them because they laughed when I talked about you. I blinked. What do you mean? I asked, and she pulled in a shaky breath. You're stable, responsible, steady, all the things I should have valued more. But when I mentioned you were thinking about buying a place, someone joked that it sounded like I was settling too soon. And I panicked. She looked up at me, her eyes tight. So I said something stupid, something mean, just to look like I was the one calling the shots. Like I wasn't the one who was lucky. The last word cracked as it left her. Lucky. She squeezed her hands until her knuckles went pale. They laughed, she said again. And I wanted to belong. I stayed silent. I didn't soothe her. I didn't rescue her from the truth she'd finally stopped running from. And when I realized you heard me, she continued, voice trembling, I knew I couldn't put it back in my mouth. I tried to play it off as a joke, but it wasn't. It was insecurity wearing confidence like a costume. I studied her carefully. The raw edges, the honesty, the exhaustion of someone finally facing the fallout from their own spark that burned down a whole room. Sierra, I said evenly, I appreciate you telling me. And I did. But she wasn't finished. She pulled in a tiny breath, her voice dropping even lower. I wasn't basically single, Mason. I was basically terrified. That line settled thickly between us. And for the first time in months, I saw the real her. Not the polished woman who always had a curated expression, not the version performing for a room, but the flawed, anxious person underneath, the one with messy edges and a habit of blowing up the things she cared about most. But here's the truth. Recognition isn't reconciliation, and I already knew where my path was heading. Still, I let her speak. "I'm not asking for another chance," she whispered. "I just needed you to know the truth." I nodded slowly. "Thank you," I said. And I meant that too. But the truth she handed me wasn't the truth she imagined. Because what I learned was simple. Her explanation made her human, but it didn't make her mine anymore. She sat there waiting for a crack, a softening, some flicker of the old Mason she could still reach. But that man wasn't sitting across from her. I wasn't cruel. I wasn't cold. I was just done living as someone else's emotional scaffolding. I closed my laptop gently and folded my hands. "Sierra," I said, calm and steady, almost kind, "I hear you, and I'm glad you're being honest." Her shoulders eased just a fraction. "But I need to be honest, too." She tensed. "When you said those words at the bar, they didn't just hurt me. They educated me." Her eyebrows pulled together. "Educated?" "Yeah," I said. "They showed me exactly where I stood in your world. What part one played. And they made me realize something important." "What?" she whispered. "That I deserve someone who's proud of me in any room," I said. "Not someone who shrinks me to fit in." Her breath shook. I know I failed at that." "You didn't fail a test," I said gently. "You revealed the answer." She blinked quickly, tears forming. Not dramatic ones, not manipulative ones, just tired, honest emotion. "Mason, is there any part of you that," she swallowed hard, "still loves me?" I didn't rush. I owe myself truth before comfort now. "I care that you're okay," I said. "I care that you're figuring yourself out. I don't want you to hurt. But love?" I shook my head. "That left the night you told a table full of people you were basically single." Her face crumpled, not theatrically, but with a quiet acceptance that even tugged at me. She wiped her cheek with the back of her hand. "I guess I earned that." "It's not about earning anything," I said. "It's about compatibility. What you needed and what I offered, they never matched. You needed excitement, validation, and audience. I needed partnership, honesty, someone who didn't rewrite the story depending on who was watching." She let out a soft, broken laugh. "God, when you put it that way, I sound awful." "You sound human," I said. "Same as me. Same as anyone who messes up and then learns." For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she straightened, wiped her eyes, and let out a long breath. "Thank you," she whispered, "for not hating me. I was afraid you would." "I don't hate you," I said. "I just don't belong to you anymore." She nodded slowly, painfully, but with understanding. Sierra stood, not abruptly, not dramatically, just quietly. "I hope you meet someone who sees you the way I should have," she said. "I will," I replied. "And I hope you meet someone you don't have to impress." Her lips pressed together, blinking once, twice, and then she walked out of the coffee shop. No pleading, no last-minute promises. Just a woman who had finally run out of angles to rewrite the past. I watched her leave, and for the first time in years, the chapter felt truly shut. What I didn't know was that the next chapter, the one where my life actually began, was already waiting for me. A strange thing happens when everything finally goes quiet. You start hearing yourself again. Not the version that tiptoed around someone else's moods. Not the one that kept shrinking to fit a mold. The real you, the one you forgot. And for me, that version showed up one morning in the form of an email. Subject line, promotion discussion. Let's talk. My manager had been hinting for a while that a leadership role might open up, but I always brushed it off. Sierra used to say things like, "Are you sure you want that? It's a lot of pressure, and you're good where you are, babe. Why rock the boat?" Translation: if I grew, she felt smaller. But now, for the first time, no one was whispering doubts in my ear. So I walked into that meeting with a confidence that didn't feel borrowed or forced. It felt earned. My manager grinned the second I stepped in. "Mason, I've been hoping you'd say yes to this." "Say yes to what?" I asked. "To leading the new integration team. Bigger clients, bigger responsibilities, bigger paycheck. You're the guy for it." The old me would have hesitated, wondering how it might affect my relationship. Would have wondered if he was overreaching. That old version of me would have second-guessed everything. But this Mason, he just said, "Send me the paperwork." Something in my boss's expression shifted. Not surprise, but this quiet satisfaction, like he'd been waiting for me to step into something I'd always been capable of but never claimed. The next 2 weeks flew by in a blur of onboarding, planning sessions, new clients, and assembling a team that actually listened when I opened my mouth. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the reliable background guy. I was the one steering the ship, and the universe wasn't anywhere near done with me. Because one Friday afternoon, while I was reviewing project specs at my usual window seat in the coffee shop, someone plopped down into the chair across from me. Not Sierra. Someone entirely new. A woman with a messy bun that looked more practical than stylish, and a tower of textbooks that seemed heavier than she was. She pointed at the seat and said, "I'm so sorry. Every other table is taken. Do you mind if I park here until one opens up?" "No," I said. "Go ahead." She let out a relieved little laugh, pushed her glasses up her nose, and sagged into the chair. "Thanks. My brain's already melting from finals. Standing might finish the job." I smiled, actually smiled. Her whole energy was grounded and warm, unpolished in the best way. She wasn't demanding anything from me. "What are you studying?" I asked. "Behavioral psychology," she said, flipping open a notebook filled with scribbles that looked like chaos wearing highlighter. "Or trying to, at least. Depends on the day." Her name was Lily, and the first thing I noticed wasn't her appearance or her voice. It was how she talked to me, like she wasn't measuring me against anything. Not my looks, not my status, not what I could offer her. Just a conversation between two people who happened to share a table in a too-loud cafe. We talked for maybe 15 minutes. Finals, caffeine, terrible professors, all the normal stuff. Then she grinned, shut her book, and said, "You know, you look like someone who's finally getting 8 hours of sleep again." I blinked. "What makes you say that?" She shrugged. "I'm a psych major. We notice things." It wasn't flirty or invasive, just an observation. But it hit harder than any compliment I'd heard in a long time. Because she was right. I was finally resting. When she packed up her things, she slung her bag over her shoulder and nodded at me. "See you around, Mason." I froze for a second. I hadn't told her my name. She tapped her temple. "Psych major. And your boss said it once while he was standing behind me in line. Don't worry, I'm not psychic or stalking you." She laughed and walked off, and for the first time, truly the first time, I felt the curious flicker of something new. Not a rebound, not a distraction, not a replacement, just a possibility. A life that didn't revolve around being convenient for someone else. A future defined by choice instead of obligation. A door cracking open instead of another one slamming shut. But the past always circles back for one last echo. And I learned that soon enough. Lily didn't instantly become important. That's the kind of myth people add later when they retell the story. In reality, she was just there. A quiet, steady presence. A contrast to the storm I just crawled out of. Over the next couple of weeks, we crossed paths at the coffee shop 3 more times. Not arranged, not orchestrated, just life doing its thing. Sometimes she sat with me. Sometimes she gave a little wave and tucked herself into a booth with her glowing laptop and a stack of highlighted articles. I didn't try to impress her. She didn't try to dissect me. It was easy. I'd forgotten relationships. Any relationships could feel that way. But the past, still sharp around the edges, wasn't finished with me. It happened early on a Sunday morning, the hour when the world feels half awake. I was doing laundry in my building's shared room, scrolling through emails, when I sensed someone behind me. I turned. Sierra. But not the unraveling version I'd seen before. Not the frantic one. Not the guilt-soaked woman from the coffee shop. This time she looked composed. Not flawless, just real. Her hair was down. She wore simple jeans, and the only makeup she might have had on was whatever mascara she missed while crying sometime earlier, or maybe late last night. Hard to guess. "Mason," she said softly. "Can we talk?" I didn't sigh or tense up. I just shut the dryer door and leaned on the counter. "I thought we said everything we needed to." I said. "We did," she replied, nodding. "But I didn't say everything I should have." I waited. She took a breath, the kind that shakes on the way out, and stepped closer. "I put everything on your shoulders," she said. "Every insecurity, every fear I had about not being enough. I dumped it all on you and called it love. You deserved better than that." Her honesty didn't sting. It didn't comfort me either. It just landed. She went on, voice steady but delicate. "I'm in therapy now, not because I think it'll magically fix things between us, but because I finally realized I kept choosing the version of myself that hurt you." She swallowed hard, eyes bright but level. "And I wanted to tell you something with a clear head. Something I couldn't say before because I was too busy panicking about what I'd lost. I held my breath just a moment. I'm proud of you, she whispered. I watched you rebuild your life after I torched mine, and I'm proud of you. Really proud. There was no angle, no manipulation, just truth. And Mason, she added quietly, I want you to know something else. I'm letting you go now. Completely. Not with hope. Not with expectation. Just peace. You don't owe me anything anymore. Her words felt like a knot loosening somewhere deep in my chest, a knot I didn't realize still existed. Sierra, I said gently but firmly, I don't hate you. I know, she whispered, and I don't regret the years we spent together. Her mouth trembled. I don't either, I said, but I'm not your person. I finished for her, and you're not mine. She nodded, slowly, bravely. I know. I see that now. We stood in the soft hum of industrial dryers, two people who had finally stopped trying to rewrite something unsalvageable. She took one step back, then another. Goodbye, Mason, she said. Goodbye, Sierra. She turned and walked away. No tears, no collapse, just quiet resolution. Just a quiet exit that felt like the true ending we never managed to give each other. When she disappeared around the corner, I let out a long breath. And for the first time since that night on the rooftop bar, the story didn't feel heavy anymore. It wasn't painful. It wasn't unfinished. It was simply done. A door finally shut so another could open cleanly, honestly, without ghosts rattling inside it. I didn't know exactly where the next chapter would take me, but I had a suspicion about who might show up in it again. And this time, I'd walk into it fully awake. It happened 2 weeks after Sierra, and I said our Rayall goodbye in that laundry room. By then, life had steadied into something solid. Work was the good kind of intense, the kind that made me want to show up early. My team was thriving, my confidence finally had legs under it, and my apartment no longer looked like a guy who escaped in the middle of the night. It finally looked lived in. Intentional. Mine. On a Saturday morning, I walked back into the coffee shop where everything had quietly begun to shift. Same corner table. Same warm sunlight spilling over the wood. Same background hum of espresso machines and stressed-out students. And there, tucked into her usual corner seat, hair in that reliable messy bun, oversized sweater slipping off one shoulder, was Lily. She glanced up, spotted me instantly, and grinned like we'd paused a conversation 5 minutes ago, not days. Hey, 8 hours of sleep, guy, she said. I laughed, really laughed, and slid into the seat across from her. Hey, psych major who reads people like barcodes. I shot back. She closed her laptop with a soft click. You look lighter today. I feel lighter, I admitted. She lifted a brow. Closure finally closed? Something like that. We talked for an hour, about her finals, my new project, terrible landlords, why croissants are objectively superior to muffins. Nothing forced. Nothing with hidden motives. Just two people choosing, of their own free will, to stay in the same orbit for a while. Then she asked, almost offhand, So, where are you heading after this? And for the first time in years, I didn't glance over my shoulder to see who I needed to check in with. I didn't calculate whether my plans would annoy someone else. I didn't shrink or second-guess wanting something simple. I just said, no idea. Want to go somewhere and figure it out together? Her smile grew slow and bright. Yeah, she said. I think I do. We stepped out into the late morning sun, coffee cups in hand, carrying no expectations, no labels, no emotional IOUs. Just possibility. Something clean. Something new. Here's the truth I didn't understand at the beginning. Heartbreak isn't the end of everything. It's the end of the wrong thing. And sometimes, leaving an apartment in the middle of the night isn't the moment you lose your entire life. It's the moment you finally make room for the part that was always meant to find you. So yeah, I'm Mason, 29, and I'm no one's convenient anything anymore. I'm just a man who walked away from the wrong story and stepped straight into his own.